Come on. There we go. Come on. There we go. All right. Let's see. Pop out the chat so I can read it a bit better. Turn it off of top chat. Put it on live chat because that's more important. And boom. There we go. Hope everyone's doing well. It is a rainy day here in Tabletop Minions HQ. There we go. It's yeah, it's been raining since yesterday, and it's supposed to rain all through today and into tomorrow. Just giving everything a good soak, which is probably fine as long as it doesn't go crazy, because I don't like it when my basement floods. So there you go. Let's see here. Hi all from a pleasant West Midlands. Hope everyone is well, indeed. Good afternoon from Germany. Good morning from Jonesboro in Southern Illinois. Greetings from Yeovil in the UK, putting the finishing touches on my Skaven Blood Bowl team. Nice. Afternoon from weird North London. Slightly cooler Tyneside in England, playing Hero Quest. Nice. That was Carlson. Let's see here. Emily, how you doing? Good morning from Jonesboro. I read that one. Great. Rainy North Carolina. Yeah, it's rainy a lot here in the United States right now. It's interesting. I mean, at least on the mid to east side, I guess. Good morning from Markham. Missed the last show for a convention building Euclidean Star Striders. Is it, or Elcidian? Is it Euclidean? I'm not sure. But I know who you're talking about. For Space Station Zero. Nice. VJ Morph, how you doing? Morning from the Mitten, about to be raining here. Yeah. Good afternoon from England. Howdy. Good morning from an overcast Ontario, hoping for some rain soon. Nice. Greetings from Portland. Assembling some Poxwalkers to pull double duty in Space Station Zero and kill sample process. Those would be perfect for both, I think. Yeah, absolutely. I think Poxwalkers are officially the unofficial miniature for Space Station Zero bad guys. I mean, that's what we used on the live stream that we did with Miniac and Ninjon. So yeah, I get exactly what you're talking about. Morning from soggy Columbus, Ohio. In a painting slump. Need to get my painting mojo back. Any selections or suggestions? Build terrain. I've been building a lot of terrain lately because I got my... while I was gone at Nova, I got my... What's it called? Rampart? Kickstarter. They're city ruins. They're awesome pieces of kit. I really, really, really like them, and I can't wait to start building them. But I've been clipping them from sprues and then putting them together. Like, each wall section generally needs like 3 pieces total. There's the main wall section, then there's like a bit of a second half of the pillar on this side, and the second half of the little hole that you stick the stud in to make them to connect to each other. But it's a super clever system, and I'm really happy with them. The other 3 designs that they came out with on that same Kickstarter, I was like, nope, don't want those. So just nothing for me. But that third or fourth, that City Ruins, ooh, super nice. Kyle says, attended Nova, my first convention. Had a great time. It was amazing meeting you and Vince at your panel. Nice. Well, I'm glad that people came to the panel. We had a really great time. It was a lot of fun. It was freezing in that room, though. Just holy cow, it was cold. Strangely, DC wasn't as horrifically hot and humid as it has been in the past Novas that I've been to. This year it was lovely, and things were great. But that room that we had our panel in, me and Vince, man, it was 20 degrees in there. That's not true, but it was really cold. And when I say 20 degrees, I don't mean Celsius. Howdy from Nicaragua. How you doing? Good morning from Knoxville, Tennessee. Hi from the sunny Rhine in Germany. Nice. Good morning from Northwest Florida. How did the panel events at Nova go? It went well. Yeah, we had a good time. We talked about content creation. We talked about game design. We answered lots of questions, even like some business type questions and things like that. It was good. Like we definitely wanted it to be something where we could like interact with people, and definitely, you know, we weren't going to have like a thing with slides and stuff. And now here in slide 27B, you see this, you know, I mean, that's not us. So yeah, it was, it went well. One of the people who runs Nova told me at some point, like the next day or so, I think that was on Sunday, because we had the event on Saturday. I think on Sunday he told me that our seminar was the most attended as far as number of people and stuff like that. So that was very cool. Good afternoon from the Netherlands. Perfect timing. Currently assembling my Carrick Acolytes. Nice. South Ontario, Saskatchewan. Hamilton, Ontario. In Madison, getting soaked, watching our friend race at an Ironman, Wisconsin. Nice. Hi from the French Alps. Nice. Windy Weston in the UK. Please forgive full of COVID. Oh, that's no good. Well, I hope you get better soon. Smoky Portland, Oregon. I'm off vacation week, sitting down to paint Battletech Lance for the game Tuesday. First mechs painted since 2005. Nice. Nice. Lexington, Kentucky. Trying to finish up some figs for 5 leagues from the Borderlands. Nice. Good day from Election Day in Sweden, working Horus Heresy Space Wolves. Nice. I really wish that our Election Day was a national holiday. I think it really ought to be, but that does not seem to be what the government wants. Filling with Eldar strike fighters that have been haunting the work desk for over a year. Yeah, you get those models that'll just sit there and just look at you, and you're like, you know, I don't know. It's weird. Super wet here in Southeast Ireland too. Loving the Space Station Zero rules. Well, thank you, Corpus. Yeah, no, it's been turning out well. The game is selling better than Rain in Hell at this point, so that's really good. Carlson is singing today. I don't know if he doesn't like the rain or what his deal is, but he's making a lot more noise than he usually does. He's our tuxedo scaredy cat boy. He's 10 or 11, I think. Anyway, but yeah, no, the game is doing well. We're really happy about it. FAQ for Space Station Zero is great. Thank you for putting it out. The list of enemies is super helpful. Yep, that went up on Friday evening, depending on where you live. But yeah, it you can find it. It's in the blog, like the news section. If you find it there on the snarlingbadger.com website, or if you go to the Space Station Zero page down towards the bottom where they show the free downloads, it's in there as well. So if you're looking for an FAQ with a bit of errata as well, that's a free download right off the website. So there you go. Just started reading Space Station Zero. Do you have any suggestions for Space Truckers minis, STL or physical? I haven't thought of anything great yet. I haven't been looking. We're going to do a blog post where we've got a bunch of suggestions on stuff like that, but I need to do a research. I've got some ideas for some of but for the shipping crew, aka Space Truckers, yeah, I haven't come up with anything. If you do. Good morning from Stoke-on-Trent, working on my Loyalist Sons of Horus for the Horus Heresy today. Nice. There was a lot of Horus Heresy that was going on at Nova. There was a big Zone Mortalis event that went on too, like on Thursday or Friday. I took a bunch of pictures from that. I think that this title card is from that same event. Yes, I believe it is. But yeah. My print copy of Space Station Zero showed up this week. It looks great. Nice work, guys. Yeah, well, thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's actually showed up a lot quicker than I thought, because a lot of times it's like, oh, yeah, you're going to get it in 3 to 6 weeks or whatever. And people have been getting it. Some people were getting it literally in 6 days. There were people that were showing off pictures of it in less than a week, which I was amazed by. I assume there's some of the earliest folks who bought it right away when it came out on Friday, you know, shortly after midnight. But yeah. Let's see here. I have a bunch of the Ramparts terrain from the first Kickstarter and I haven't even thought of painting it. Seriously dull design. Yeah, I don't remember that stuff much. And like I said, there were the 4 different sets and 3 of them just did not trip my terrain trigger. I don't know what that means. But that that 4th set though, man, I don't know what it is about the city the city ruins. Like, I don't know if they were sculpted by a different person or different people or what, but there's so much really interesting detail, and just, I don't know, they just fit perfectly for like what I want. So, and it's funny because I'm like, I was working on the new kill team terrain, the Into the Dark stuff, at the same time that I was also kind of building this Rampart stuff. And I'm just thinking to myself, this kill team stuff is pretty cool, but man, there's just the Rampart stuff just speaks to me more. I don't know what it is, but it does. Good morning from beautiful downtown Baton Rouge. How you doing? Are you going to do a video on the Rampart terrain? Enjoyed your kill team terrain video? Yeah, I have a suspicion, probably. It's going to maybe take me a while to get things figured out a little bit. I'm just basically going through and trying to put together all the pieces, and then I'm going to spend some time, because I'm not going to do it in a modular fashion. I'm not going to be like, oh, I'll be able to take it apart and put it together differently. I'm going to build pieces out of it, put them on small bases, and like they will be a terrain piece, as opposed to just like, oh, I'll just, puzzle piece it all together next time for whenever I have a game or whatever. I want them to be, and there's multiple levels too. So because they also have like stairs, and there's like ramps, and there's like roofs and stuff like that. So it'll take me a while to get things nailed down that way. But I'm probably 2/3 of the way through the box as far as gluing all the pieces together. I'm using plastic cement, so that's fun. Room was the best. That room was the best temperature ever. Meat locker is perfection. I mean, I'm glad that you enjoyed it. It was chilly in there. It's always prudent to take a sweatshirt or something to a con. I wouldn't have thought so for Nova, because I've been to Nova 2 or 3 times in the past, and it has always been just deadly hot, just super crazy, stupid hot and humid. And this year it wasn't bad. Well, it wasn't cold, but that room was cold. Oh man. Good morning from the Mitten. How you doing? Good day from Australia. Currently building some Sisters of Battle. Nice. Good morning from Portland. Going to stores from 35 Celsius humidity to meat locker temperature, damn near hypothermia. When we came back from Gen Con back in early August, we left Indiana. We left Indianapolis, and it was 93 degrees and super humid. Cranked the AC, drove. Well, we just drove outside of town where it was also still hot, but we stopped. We got some food, whatever. I forget. I think we went to a Chipotle, and then drove all the way back to Milwaukee. And when I got out of the car at Chipotle, still in Indiana, we had the AC cranked up. I got outside the entire time, get out of the car, and it was cold. Like, it was 67 degrees. So we'd gone from like 92 to 67, and we didn't realize it was going to be cold outside. We just thought it was going to be just as warm as it was. And I wasn't looking at the temperature. We got out and we were like, oh, what the heck? It was weird. Speaking of weird, yesterday, my wife and I went to Oak Creek, Wisconsin, which is a little bit south of Milwaukee. We went to the IKEA down there. Got up early, drove down there. We got there at 10 when they opened, went in, got some stuff. There's a lot of stuff that is temporarily unavailable, which, it's a global shipping hootenanny, problem. Anyway, but we got a bunch of stuff, and we left there. It was 86 degrees. And I was like, well, I hope, because we left the windows open at home. I had looked at the weather and said it wasn't supposed to get above like 72. So we're like, well, it's 86. That's wrong. And we're not that far away. We're 90, maybe 100 miles from home. And I'm like, well, that's weird. So we've got the thermostat's on the internet, our thermostat. It's one of those Nest ones or whatever. So I look at it to make sure that the AC didn't kick in, even though the windows are open. And it was like, well, I'll have to turn it off because we didn't expect it to get so warm. Well, it was saying that it was 64 outside. I'm like, well, that's obviously wrong. It's not updating or something, because we weren't, like, I wasn't in Wi-Fi. I was on, regular signal or whatever. So I'm like, all right, well. As we drove home that 100 miles, the temperature gauge in my car that shows what the outside temperature was went from 86, and by the time we got back to here, it was at 67, I think. So in 100 miles, we lost like 25 degrees, and it was so weird. Yeah, couldn't figure it out. It just, very weird. Not Not sure it's a good idea to be drinking a coffee milk stout at midnight, but at least we should keep me till the end of the stream. There you go. That's not too bad. Going to paint my first 3D printed mini later today, a resin figure from Elegoo Mars 2. Is there anything I should know, or is it just like painting a plastic mini? You don't have to scrape mold lines, so that's pretty cool. Just give it a good primer, you know. Make sure it's completely dry, like it's come out of the wash and everything's been super cured and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, if that's all the case, just prime it and go to town. Afternoon from Pucklechurch in the UK. Painting Ratkin today. Pucklechurch is a lot of fun to say. Enjoying my new airbrush. Nice. Just finished putting my Orc Commandos together, and now I'm adding basing paste to their bases. Nice. My Space Station Zero book arrived today. It's a glorious day. Nice. Hello from above Detroit. Just did a 40-hour FDM print of an Ankylosaurus weapons platform. Sadly, the geckos cashed in their insurance. That's not good. Afternoon from Bristol. How can I get a hold of Space Station Zero over here? Any idea? If you just go to spacestationzerogame.com, you can purchase it there. It is available in PDF, which you would get instantly. It's also available in print on demand. And since you're in the UK, there's a facility for print on demand in both the US and UK. So it would get printed right near you and shipped within the country. So yeah, you wouldn't have to pay a bunch of money for shipping to get it shipped from over here in the US. It just gets printed right over by you. And if you buy the print version, there's like 3 options on the website. There's PDF, there's print only, which I would love to get rid of, but we can't for some reason. I don't know. And then the third version is you get the PDF you get the print version, and then the PDF is included for free. So if you want both, click that bottom one. But yeah, you can if you just go to spacestationzerogame.com or just go to snarlingbadger.com and then click on Space Station Zero, it'll take you to the link where you go, and then you can go get it right there. Got my hard copy of Space Station Zero yesterday, just in time for my birthday. Well, happy birthday. Nice. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Received my Uncle Adam's brush set on Ninjon's discount code, helping to spread the wealth. Nice. Missed the last show as I was at Oss Armor Fest. Oh, that sounds kind of fun. It's the rich that don't want it to be a public holiday. Oh, I'm way behind, aren't I? Yeah. Can't let those poors vote, or a guy might end up with a government that cares about him. You're not wrong. Going through the Battletech boxed game. Some sort of bird fight going outside. Painting each of the mechs a different color scheme. Nice. Question, Uncle Adam. Excuse me. I will answer that in just a second. All right. Question, Uncle Adam. Was the setting of Space Station Zero inspired by the short Beyond the Aquila's Rift? The part about a lot of the ships being sent into the same point in the middle of nowhere, it reminded me of it. I don't think so. So the story behind Space Station Zero is predominantly a Vince thing. It's an idea he had about a decade ago and was planning on turning into a role-playing game, actually. That was an idea that he'd had, and he's like, this will be a role-playing game someday. And then when he and I started working together, and we were 3/4 of the way through Reign in Hell, and decided, hey, now it's time to start thinking about our next game, he's like, I got an idea. And so, yeah, it's an idea that came from him. So that would be a question, I guess, technically to ask Vince. But I don't know that would be the case, that's where it came from. New Alpha Strike box that Ash reviewed looks really nice. Thinking about picking it up. Well, if I can get it, given Catalyst's ability to keep up the demand. I was told at Gen Con that they weren't going to be available till like November. And I don't even know if that includes Australia or overseas or anything like that. I don't know. They had maybe like 100 of them or a couple hundred of them at Gen Con, which all immediately sold out on Thursday. Great. And so, yeah, I got to be honest, I am really enjoying Steel Rift, which is the new mech game from... It's written by Ash Barker from Guerrilla Miniature Games here on YouTube. And it's published by Death Ray Designs, the folks that make a lot of laser cut MDF and all that kind of stuff. Vince and I got to play a demo of it at Nova. It's very cool. One of the things I like about it the most is it is a 34-page rule book, and like 2 of those pages are fluff. That's about it. So really like more like a 32-page rule book. I like the mechs that they make too. Like they're called HEVs, which stands for something. I forget what it stands for. But yeah, they're cool designs. I like the designs. Vince and I got a demo from Austin from Death Ray Designs. I think it was Friday night, maybe. It might have been Friday night. And it was, yeah, it's a cool game. It's got some things that are a little different. Like, for one thing, when you're shooting at somebody, you don't roll to hit. It's just assumed that your giant sci-fi weapons package should be able to hit the other giant sci-fi weapons package. Like, you know, you've got laser guided, computer controlled guns. You should be able to hit that literal, like, you know, broadside of a barn over there. So you don't have to roll to hit. When you roll to shoot somebody, when it's time to shoot somebody, you just go, I'm firing these weapons at you, and then your opponent rolls for defense. So to some people that might be like, no, you got to roll to hit first, and like it's not something they did in this game, which I think is cool. But yeah, just a bunch of neat little things in the game. It's not too super crazy in depth, but it's still quite enjoyable. You got jump jets, you got different weapon systems, you hide behind buildings, jump up on top of buildings, you got cover, like all that kind of stuff. Dice mechanic is cool. I don't know. I really dug it. So I came home with a bunch of it actually from Nova, and my plan is to start building the mechs. And I came home with some of the MDF little buildings and stuff like that. But I'm also looking now at 6mm buildings on Etsy, like 3D printed stuff. So yeah. Anyway. But yeah, I see myself potentially doing that instead of Alpha Strike, unfortunately. Well, not unfortunately, but I don't know. Eventually, maybe I'll play Alpha Strike if they can ever actually get the product out the door to people who want to buy it. We'll see. Sometime next year. Space Truckers House Goliath from Necromunda? Maybe. I'm intrigued by the Alpha Strike starter box. Another way to play is always welcome. Sure. How are you handling your Rampart terrain? Are you going to keep them modular or glue them together? I think I actually mentioned that. I'm going to glue them all together into one piece, and well, not all one piece, but you know, like I'll make like a corner of a ruined building and then make another piece over here and that kind of stuff. But I'm not going to take them apart and put them back together over and over again. That being said, I would like to buy another set now because then I could build even more stuff. So I sent them an email saying, hey, are you guys going to sell this separately, or is it only available through the Kickstarter and that's it? Or I don't know. I'm hoping that they sell that stuff separately too. Buddy and I spent 8 hours playing Space Station Zero yesterday. Great campaign until all the jarheads couldn't stop the reactor. Great game. Well, good. I'm glad to hear it. Papsicles and Titanforge may have some Space Trucker-like minis. Not sure about the Pirates and the BMWs, though. Sure. The Aztec Temple Rampart stuff is nice if you have something that will use that style of building. Yeah. I mean, it's not... None of the stuff that I thought of the new things were badly designed. They just weren't my aesthetic. Like, I'm like, I don't have anything that needs Aztec dudes, and the Gothic stuff was like, it's... But that... I don't know what it was, but that City Ruins, man. Jeez. As soon as I saw that stuff, I'm like, yeah, I need that. Give me. Good morning from Phoenix, Arizona. Whoops. Things slipped. Hang on. I'll find it again. Oh my goodness. There we go. Have you had a chance to look at the rules for Bloodfields by Titanforge Miniatures? I haven't. I saw that they have a game. I haven't had a chance to try it out though, or anything like that, but I'm glad to see the Titanforge is getting into game design. I mean, that's cool when you see those, see folks who are doing really well with the STLs go, well, we should make a game for people to use these STLs as well. Why not? Morning from Corpus Christi. Pollen-soaked Corpus Christi. Well, that's not good. Let's see here. Stargrave any good? I'm interested, but I don't know if it's fun. I enjoy it, yeah. I dislike having to wear layers of clothing to go shopping indoors. Well, yeah, I get that. Recently got around to assembling my 2 sets of Rampart Kickstarter 1 campaign for Warcry, made small partial buildings, made some interesting layouts while still being able to be modular with each other. Nice. I was watching a video on the new Kill Team terrain made by Eric's Hobby Workshop. Watching his video, you wouldn't think there was any issues with fit like you seem to have. There was somebody who commented in my video like this morning at some point who was like, yeah, I bought the stuff and it doesn't have that same problem. So they're like, maybe you got early production? That was like, I don't know. I just really had a hard time getting the stuff in there. But yeah, that maybe there are different sets. Maybe the stuff can plastic swell. I don't know if that was. It seems unlikely. Like if they would have had to go back and go, oh, those fit too tightly, let's fix it. They would have had to somehow change the molds, which doesn't seem like a thing that would have happened. I don't know. It's a good question. Or maybe they just sanded it a lot and then just didn't mention it in their video. That could be a potential thing as well. There was a lot of people who suggested that I sand those tabs to put them in the slots so they fit better. And I'm like, sure, except, you know, normally it's not. But yeah, that's obviously the case, is that I could do that too. Let's see here. It was great to see you there, even if just briefly. Hope you had a great time. Absolutely, yeah. I always enjoy Nova. And Nova under the new management, new ownership, whatever. You know, there was concern just because I'm like, I don't know these people and who knows how the things will go. But I thought everything went great. The new folks, I met the two main kind of people who are sort of owning the new convention, Owen and Bridget, and they're very nice folks. And they did great work, and they had a lot of great staff of people who were working around them. I know a guy that I know, Aaron. He was, I bumped into him a bunch there, and he's part of their board or part of their, I'm not exactly sure how everything's all kind of organized or whatever, but he's part of the whole show. He's part of the staff, and he's a good dude. And I think that Wargamer Girl, Miranda, I think is also maybe helping with the hobby stuff. She wasn't able to come this year, but she was, I think, helping to kind of coordinate like which painters are in which classes and this and that and the other thing. I think I'm not 100% sure on that. But yeah, no, it was a great convention, and they're moving it next year. Not far. It's still going to be in DC. Actually, currently it's not in DC. It's currently in Northern Virginia, but it's like 4 miles from the White House, so it's all real close to each other. But next year they're moving to a newer, bigger hotel kind of area, which is in DC proper, I guess. And so, yeah, it sounds cool. IKEA dishware fiendishly does not fit North American dishwashers, and their shelving doesn't line up with North American standard of 16-inch centers and walls. Yeah, no, I think the shelving. So I had to buy some shelving from them. That was one of I got some stuff for my airbrush room at IKEA, and I was looking for shelves, but so our house is old, like 100. Well, for America, it's like 102 years old, and the airbrush room, which used to be the coal bin, has studs. One wall, the outside wall is, you know, cinder block, but the inside wall of the little room there, it goes underneath the stairs. I measured it's got like 22.5 inches between studs. Don't know why. It's weird, but whatever. So the shelf thingies, like it's a long story, but I bought these 4 shelves to fit in there so I can stack stuff in there, and it's with a bit of a mallet, I can get them in between those things, because those shelves are allegedly like 22 and 5/8. So it's a real tight fit. Like I can put one in there finally when I get it in there. I don't have to technically screw it into the wall. I mean, I will, but it's like being held by the studs. So that's the thing. The other thing I did is I also got finally like a stool, like an actual, like it's got a little bit of a back to it. It's got some wheels in the bottom so that I can have something to sit on when I'm airbrushing that is not literally a step ladder. I have been sitting on a short metal step ladder when I airbrush for the last decade, easy. So actually having a chair is something that'll be neat. So yeah, picked up a little bit of this and a little bit of that there. Also got a little like a freestanding shelvy thing too. I wanted to get a table to put my 3D printer on, and I found one on the website, and then when I got there I was like, oh yeah, no, that's temporarily unavailable. So that search continues as well. Jesse, how you doing? Morning from wet Milwaukee. It's wet up here too. Let's see. I have half a dozen different sets of the Russian-produced terrain sets from the mid-early aughts, 2004, for miniature agnostic games like Stargrave. Oh yeah, like Hexagon, or yeah, I've got some of those Russian stuff too, like different like weird tanks and tubes and pipes and stuff like that. There's a bunch of different names for them, and I've got some of that stuff as well. I forget exactly what it's called though. I impulse bought some discounted Reaper Bones minis yesterday because I recognized them from Space Weirdo's rulebook. Nice. Was not expecting them to be soft and rubbery, so this is a whole new experience. Yeah, the white bones stuff is a little, I mean, it's not rubbery per se, but it is bendy for sure. Waiting for my Space Station Zero hard copy. Painting an apothecary for it. Nice. Hello from rainy Belfast. I see On Tabletop did a bit on Space Station Zero this morning. Very good piece. Oh, I haven't got a chance to check yet. Darn. Okay. Well, yeah. I'd sent off a PDF to Ben and Jerry. I just literally realized that it's Ben and Jerry. But, okay, yeah, ice cream thing. Gotcha. I did not realize. Yeah, Jerry and Ben. I don't know, whatever. Jerry spelled with a G, so it's not exactly like Ben and Jerry's. But, yeah. Yeah, but I sent them off PDF late last week, I think, or maybe mid last week. Let's see here. Ran another monthly game of Kill Team in my local store. I'm currently 0-5, but teaching the game to a lot of people. Honestly, that's the important part. Store sold a starter set, so I guess they won. Space Station Zero is on the way. Nice. Bird fight? Do they have knives? I mean, on the end of their little bird fingers, I guess, technically. I think they call them talons, but yes. Finished my Lizardman Warband for Song of Blades and Heroes. Used gamers, grass, laser cut plants to decorate the bases. Gives them a cool jungle feel. Nice. Hello from Tampa, Florida. Howdy. Late greetings from Manchester, where I'll be kitbashing rocket knobs for my orcs. Nice. Do you mean something other than the 1970s show about the Lost Generation ship? Oh, yeah, that was to somebody else. What are your thoughts on the Leagues of Votann? Any intention to painting up some on Twitch? Twitch, maybe? I don't know. I want the base normal dudes, like the original folks that they showed off when they first announced the Leagues of Votann. Like they were in like kind of the white kind of spacesuit sort of armor stuff with a bit of gray and all that kind of stuff. Like those guys all day. I want those guys and ladies. They've got both going on there, which is awesome. I want those models for so many games. Space Weirdos, Planet 28, Space Station Zero, all kinds of stuff like that. I really like those models a lot. Everything else they've showed off, less so. Not bad. I I don't know. I don't know what it is. It's weird. Part of it is because on so many of the other models, they've started to work in all of this kind of pseudo-Norse, rune mythology and stuff like that. And I'm like, why is every dwarf got to be Norse? You know what I mean? Like, I saw a thing recently, like, why is it always they got to be, the dwarves have like a Scottish accent or something like that or whatever? Like, why can't they ever be, like I saw someone on Twitter was like, why can't dwarves have a Southern accent? It's a fantasy world. I'm not even talking about GW, but it's just in general, anyway. But that's just what you do when you got a dwarf and they're like, aye, matey, and all that kind of stuff. And they sound like pirates. It's weird. Anyway, so yeah, I want the base guys and ladies, but the rest of them beyond that, not as much. They're fine. They're kind of cool. Some of them are cool. Some of them could be modified to not be so kind of Norse. But the base ones I'm really looking forward to. So another thing that happened, I don't know if you saw this on Twitter. So during the preview on Wednesday, I got to DC on Wednesday, not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. Wednesday afternoon, evening, got there. And then there was the GW preview on Wednesday night. And they talked about a bunch of stuff and blah, 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 new things, this and that. And they showed off a bunch of the new League of Votann stuff, the big box they're going to sell. And they also showed off this vehicle, which is this big kind of weird buggy kind of van looking sort of thing or whatever. And I'm just looking at it, and the first thing that pops into my head, and I'm sitting next to Vince, and I lean over to him, and I'm like, "Do you think Ninja Turtles are going to come out of that van?" And he chuckled, and to me, it just looked like a vehicle. It looked like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles like party van a little bit. And so after we got done with the show, the preview, we went upstairs to his hotel room where we then did Warhammer Weekly, because he does that on Wednesdays. And so it was like a preview reaction show. So it was him and I sitting there in his hotel room reacting to what just went on at the preview thing. And we went through all that kind of stuff. And during that show, I also was like, that League of Votann vehicle that looks like Ninja Turtles are going to come out of it and everything. We talked a little bit about that. Literally next morning, I wake up and somebody has tagged me on Facebook and from the Tabletop Minions Paint Showcase Club, which is just, it's technically still there, but and someone was like, "Oh, you mean like this?" And they had taken the picture of this vehicle, which is generally gray and kind of like white, and they had just gone in Photoshop and colored it very well, a very good job. And now it looks, and then they put the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles logo down in the lower corner, and it looked like a toy from whoever made that stuff. Kenner, Mattel, I don't remember who made the stuff for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but it was perfect. And then I was like, "Oh, that is awesome. That is really good." I don't know if I have a picture of my phone, but I don't have it on my computer here, so I can't really. But it was so good, and it's just like, it's one of those things you put out into the world, and then you're like, "Well, there you go." I don't know if this will, but anyway, yeah. So they just colored it, and they made it like tan and green and that and stuff, and it just looked like the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles vehicle. And probably if you do a Google search for TMNT League of Votann, I bet you'll probably find it. Anyway, so yeah, that was that. And then I tweeted it out, and then like literally by the next day, Vince was like, "Yeah, I'm seeing it in Discords I'm going into." It kind of spread all over the place. So that was the sort of funny thing with with that. I don't know. So those are my thoughts on the League of Votann. I definitely want the base units, and the rest of it, eh. Now, the thing is that some people were like, "Oh, I bet you GW is mad at you for making that crack about the van looking like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles van." But the thing is that when I posted it on Twitter, I got a lot of responses from people who were like, "Well, I wasn't going to buy it before, but now that I have a paint scheme, I think I'm probably going to buy it." So hopefully it's going to, I don't know, probably it's going to sell more units of that particular vehicle. So yeah. John Ashley Smith says, "Steel Rift looked pretty cool and simple, quick games with tactical depth." Yeah, like I said, Vince and I enjoyed it. We really liked the demo, and I'm looking forward to it. Do you know any alternative? Oh, geez, it moved again. Dang it. Do you still plan on doing a Warcry 2.0 first impressions video? Now that I'm back from traveling and the game is launched, our game, and all that kind of stuff, yes. I think maybe Sam and I'll try to get together and do something like that. I've been asked by customers to create BattleTech scaled terrain. Is that the same scale as Steel Rift? I think so. I believe so. I think it's like 6mm-ish. I need to double check on that, but I'm pretty sure. Do you know any alternatives to I am Game 4? It is, Game 4, as it seems to not be in operation in my region. Yeah, no, Game 4, we hibernated it back in July of 2020 because of the pandemic and stuff like that. The whole point of the app was connecting tabletop gamers, and during the pandemic, the tabletop gamers were not supposed to connect, not physically at least. So yeah, we did that back in 2020, and then 2 months ago, we kind of announced that it's just not really coming back because it's, like, it's mainly a money thing. Like, it costs a ton to run it, and we were going to have to kind of rebuild it because we wanted to tweak things to make it slightly cheaper, but even that was going to cost a lot. And actually, we made a podcast about it. If you follow the Game 4 podcast, the last last episode of the Game 4 podcast, which I think was episode 83, if I remember correctly, we kind of explained in there what's going on. So yeah, I haven't seen a good alternative, to be honest with you. I'm kind of surprised. But yeah, possibly something will pop up. I hope so. Terrain could be easily swapped between Steel Rift and BattleTech. It just has to look close. Yeah, that's true as well. We'll be doing a review of the new starter set for Middle Earth strategy battle game. I didn't have any plans to. They don't usually send me Middle Earth stuff. GW doesn't, so it's hard to say. No issues with the Into the Dark fit here, but a friend had the same issues as you. Seems to be random. Weird. That's weird. Huh. Ash Barker said it was a rough build, too. Yeah, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Maybe there was, I don't know, can plastic swell? Like I said, I don't know if that's the case. Took Best Painted Warband in my local Warhammer store for an Underworld's tourney on Saturday. Apparently, I paint better than I play. Nice, Jim Crimmins. Good to hear. Vince mentioned Snarling Badger Studios merch on Trapped Under Plastic that you were sorting. I'm hoping that new TM merch Nick's shirt will come first. Now that I'm back, I'm looking forward to getting that stuff sorted. I have to get the website. So the website's like sort of set up, and I've got some stuff uploaded, but there was other stuff that had to get finished, and it was just a situation of not having any time because we were launching. Well, the last 2 months plus, it's just been nonstop Space Station Zero because of the layout. Like, that's a big portion of the end just before launch is on my shoulders because it's layout and design and, you know, all that kind of stuff and blah, blah, blah. Whereas early days of the game, a huge portion of that is on Vince's shoulders. We still meet weekly and we still, you know, iterate and talk back and forth and collaborate, but he's doing the majority of the writing and the designing and the math and all that stuff. And then once that's all done and proofed and everything, then it comes into kind of, you know, it comes into my court and then it's designed. So yeah, I've been real busy. So I'm hoping to get all those things fixed. This might be a silly question, but I've been finding that when I spray paint, I sometimes end up with this bumpy type of texture on my paint, on parts of my miniature. Any idea what may be causing this? You got to shake the cans really good. If it keeps happening, it could be an old can. So sometimes like spray cans, rattle cans don't have an infinite shelf life. Like they can eventually start to go bad. And then sometimes you can get stuff like that. Or sometimes they'll spray onto the model and then not stick. That also happens sometimes. Could also be humidity sometimes too. If it's too humid, that can sometimes cause a bumpiness. It kind of depends. Depends on the paint, really. People are saying lots of shaking, run under warm water. Yeah, that's also a thing. Also, thank you for introducing me to Vince. I've been loving his content. Well, he makes great stuff. So yeah, you're welcome. You might want to try using a file instead of sandpaper. A nice carpenter's file would handle your problem very quickly. That's a good question. Studs on 24-inch centers. 24-inch centers will provide a wall that wobbles as you walk past. Well, that's not good. This is, like I said, this is just... So the room that I do my airbrushing in is this weird Harry Potter room underneath the stairs. So it's... But it, like I said, it used to be an not oil, but coal bin. Recently, as I was cleaning some stuff in there, I found a piece of coal. It was kind of neat. Sitting on a stepladder will give you piles. I mean, very possibly, yeah. JP Got Rockets, how you doing? Technolog, that was the name of the Russian stuff. Yep. Will Space Station Zero have its own 3D printed terrain and models? No. I know we can use our own. I was just curious. No, yeah. We've had a lot of people ask about that. And the thing about getting someone to sculpt that stuff is it's kind of expensive and takes a huge amount of time to like get all that stuff figured out. We've had a lot of people go like, well, I don't know why you don't make a line of miniatures to go with your games. And we're like, because then we can't do a game a year. And we kind of want to do a game a year. And it kind of, the idea is miniature agnostic. So now in the future, will we maybe come up with some like 3D printed tokens for people who like that kind of thing? But it's not a necessity. Maybe 3D printed like specific objective markers or something for a game, possibly. But again, we don't ever want to make anything where you're like, oh, you can't play the game without getting these things. You know what I mean? So, but we are looking at, you know, now game aids, frankly. So like, you know, oh, you like cool tokens? Well, here's a PDF so you could print them out yourself. Or if you want to, we, you know, came up with these STLs, which you could then buy and then print yourself as well, you know. Or maybe, hey, you know, you can just use the character sheet or whatever, the crew sheet that's in the back of the book. Oh, but we also maybe made cards that you can buy through drivethroughcards.com and that are full color and are real nice. And then you can put them in sleeves and use dry erase markers and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. But you don't have to, you know what I mean? Like people like that kind of stuff. And if we can make it, you know, put it out there for people to buy if they're interested, then great, you know. But you could also just get the PDF, print out your crew sheet, print out your, you know, tokens or all kinds of, or just use coins. I mean, there's lots of options, but we don't ever want to make anything where it's like, hey, you have to use this to play the game, because that just seems, well, first of all, it's just not true. You know, you could use whatever you want, but there's a lot of games out there like, oh, these are the models you're supposed to use, and this is the terrain you're supposed to use, and stuff like that. Obviously, you don't have to, because they're not going to come to your house and take it away. But Anyway, there you go. Nova is in my neighborhood next year. Lots more restaurants and things nearby. Nice. It was good to see you there, actually. Fungazi, it was good to see you there at Nova. Noob Painter, good morning, Uncle Adam. Tell us about the cruise that you took through the station. Let's see. I went with the shipping guys a little bit, and I just used, like, you know, whatever models I had laying around just for proxy. I would like to go back through again now that everything is finalized and done. I mainly was just kind of getting used to using, I think the models that I actually used were probably, which doesn't make sense. They don't look like shipping guys, but I used Adeptus Mechanicus guys, which I used in some of the videos too. But yeah, it was like a 4+1 for the commander shipping crew, which is kind of weird to have a shipping crew that's, well, anyway, but yeah, that's what I did. And I didn't go super crazy far. Again, it was just basically testing to kind of get things going. The majority of the testing has been done by Vince and Tom, as far as like running crews through and checking numbers, and because that's kind of their gig. My gig is more the graphics and stuff like that. But I did get to mess around with, I don't know. I think I got to be honest. The reason I went with the shipping crew is partially just because it's one of my favorite pieces of artwork, the two shipping people in that book. And so I was like, I'm going to use those guys, even though I didn't use models that actually looked like them at all, but that's what I kind of did. Let's see here. Hello from Germany. I'm really envious of the conventions you have in the US. Been looking for STH compatible here, but it seems like there's nothing. Oh, something compatible. Gotcha. Nothing that comes close to the craziness you guys have. There is a lot of craziness over here. I'm not going to lie. Yeah, our conventions have a tendency to be big. It's interesting when I like hear about like the big conventions in the UK and how a lot of them, like some of them are 2 days now, but a lot of them, like Salute used to always just be like a 1-day convention from what I understand, right? Is that the case? And yeah, like you go to Gen Con or Adepticon or, you know, Nova or whatever, they're generally usually Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And from what I've been told, it's the reason it's like that in the UK is just like it's a money thing. Like, you know, especially like if you're in London, like the amount of money for a fancy schmancy, you know, hotel, ballroom, whatever, all that is super crazy high. So I get that. Yeah, but no, you're right. It is a very different kind of terrain as far as that's concerned. I've talked to people who've traveled overseas to come to like Gen Con and stuff like that. I was sitting at a breakfast buffet years and years ago at the hotel, you know, that I was staying at, and there was not a lot of, the place was full of gamers, and there was like a space at the table, and a guy said, "Is it okay if I sit here?" And then we started talking, and he's from the UK, and he was telling me about all the ways that things are very different in the way that they do things there versus the way we do things here. He said he was amazed that he's like, the restaurants have signs in the windows that say "Welcome Gen Con," and I'm like, well, yeah, they would want people to come in and eat, right? He's like, yeah, they wouldn't do that in the UK. And this was again 2016ish maybe, but he was like, yeah, that's not the way they would. If there was when there's a big game convention, there's no like signs in the window, and no, that's not the way it's done. And I'm like, oh, that's odd, but yeah. So yeah, because I've like some of the downtown in Indianapolis during Gen Con, some of those restaurants go absolutely ham as far as like all the wait staff is wearing like t-shirts that have like superhero logos on them. There was I forget what the place was called, but all the wait staff was wearing like Batman and Superman and all these different, and then they had capes like attached to the back of the t-shirt, like built right in, and they had a special menu that was all gaming themed and like all kinds of stuff like that. And evidently that's just something we do over here, I guess. I don't know. Feisty Crab Man, how you doing? Sorry to be late to the party, but I had to squeeze in some yard work this morning. Yeah, we can't do that now because it's raining. Mordecai says, I'm enjoying painting up the Firefly Brigands and Browncoats minis to use with Space Station Zero. No, that makes sense. Any STL or physical recommendations for the swarm drones? We were talking before about Poxwalkers. They work out real well because you can just say, oh, it's a swarm of nanobots and they look like those guys. But you can do that with honestly anything. Russian dwarves are neat. Yeah, I can see that. Cuban dwarves. Ooh. I default to a Southern accent for dwarves in my D&D games, but that might just be because it's the only accent I'm comfortable doing. I mean, that happens. Yeah, I get that. There's a guy I listen to on a podcast who, whenever he starts doing an accent, he almost always eventually turns it into Jamaican. Like, he'll start trying to do this accent, and then it just eventually morphs into Jamaican. Order my hard copies of Rain and Hell and Space Station Zero. The D12 combat mechanic looks very cool and original. Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I mean the purchase and stuff like that, and the D12 combat mechanic thing. That's a Vince thing, so you should let Vince know about it. But yeah, the D12 thing for Rain and Hell is great for the activation, initiative, all that kind of stuff. And I really like how that's worked. The initiative for Space Station Zero is done differently, but then the D12s are used more for, attacking, defending, all that kind of stuff. It's like pirates all sounding like they're from Bristol. It's a film's fault. That's probably true, yeah. Thought their transports might make nice spaceships for Space Station Zero. Could be. Trying to hold out on Leagues of Votann until there are kill teams, skirmish for the win. No time for a huge army. Yeah, no, I wouldn't be interested in a huge army either. Like I said, if they sell those base models in a box, I don't know, 10 or whatever, I would buy one of those for sure. And then just use them for other stuff. Do you know anyone that did the masterclass on Thursday, thinking about taking it at the KC Open? I don't know that I talked to anybody about the masterclass, but that sounds cool. Let's see here. Oh, man, I was really behind. There we go. Greetings from Adelaide. Looking forward to collecting up some STLs for Space Station Zeros. I begin my quest going from truly terrible to only mostly terrible at painting minis. Nice. Well, I mean, all you got to do is compare yourself to yourself. Playmates did the toys for TMNT. Nice. I got to acquire the Wargames Atlantic Lizardmen before I buy anything else. Do not show me the Space Dwarves. The Lizardmen are cool. I like the Lizardmen a lot. I've got a box of those. Speaking as a person of Scottish descent, the reason why dwarves are usually portrayed with a Scottish accent is that they are a great extent of parody of the stereotypes of Scots. See, yeah, I don't know why they need to be like that. Greetings from a wet Tinley Park, Illinois. Just caught my first Twitch podcast last week. Nice. You mean the thing that I do on Twitch, or just Twitch in general? I'm on Twitch generally on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Central, and I paint for 3 hours, and then also on Friday mornings at 10 a.m. Central, where I also paint for 3 hours and talk to people and answer questions and all that kind of stuff. It's fun. Yeah, I've been enjoying Twitch. It's a great time. Where do you start with new BattleTech? It gets confusing after the box sets. I know Total Warfare used to be the core book. That is not a question I can answer, because I don't know. I mean, I know there's like the starter box, and then after that, I don't know where to go next. But somebody else in the here in the chat very, very possibly might help you out there. Now all this talk of culture of dwarves makes me think that Rastafarian dwarf army could be a unique take. Could be. Irregulars this coming weekend or next? I believe it's this upcoming Saturday. Let me do some quick math here. 1, 2, 3, 4, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, it will be on the 17th. Yep. Any chance of doing a web page version of Game 4? Not that I know of, no. Different machines, different molds? Yeah, I guess they could. I mean, they might have had multiple molds. I don't know. It's a good question. Or maybe certain panels, certain tabs fit better into certain slots and other ones don't, and I just happen to grab all the wrong ones? I don't know. It's a good question. Any thoughts on Thursday masterclass? Thinking about taking it to Casey? Yeah, I did not. I did not have any access to that or know anything about it really. I know in the past from toy collecting, the plastic toys come from the earlier runs will have crisper details and they can adjust steel molds. Maybe your terrain is from an early run. Could be. I mean, I got it in. When the heck did I get it? Sometime in August. On the last Warhammer Weekly, somebody asked if the 3 hosts had beaten the game. Who was the one person who hadn't beat the game yet? That would be me. Yeah. Good morning, Uncle Adam. Have you tried Vallejo's basing earth texture products? I'd love to hear your thoughts on basing effects. I haven't. I've never seen them like in the flesh, so I don't know. The texture effect stuff that I like to use most is the stuff from Monument Hobbies. Their fine basing texture. I use that on my models all the time. I like that stuff a lot. Have you made any videos on finishing miniatures with varnishes? If not, would you please consider? I don't think I have, but it's probably not a bad idea. I generally varnish because I'm generally painting for tabletop as opposed to display, right? So I do generally paint or varnish with an airbrush after I'm done, and then if I need like certain spots of glossiness, like things that are supposed to look wet or whatever, then I go back with a regular brush and I brush on some gloss finish, varnish, whatever. But yeah, that's there's not a ton to that video, I guess, but yeah, I guess I haven't done much rattle can varnishing in a long time, so I'd have to probably figure that out a little bit, because I know that dull coat is not nearly as dull as it used to be. So, which, if you're looking for it to be flat, is a problem. Any chance the next game you and Vince work on will be fantasy based? No, but another game after that would very probably. So yeah, we're already working on the next game, but it's not fantasy based. Next game will have branded STLs clearly. How else will it be about robot squirrels? Sure. Maybe you could collaborate with Miniac and he could do minis based on your games. I mean, I guess it's maybe, but the thing is that, like, because he's done stuff in the past, but he's done like bigger, he's worked with artists to do bigger like paint, like 75 millimeter type stuff and things like that. The issue is that, like, it's not super difficult to make a model. I mean, it is, don't get me wrong, but how am I trying to say this? To release enough STLs for people to go, oh, I can build even a crew of 6, 7, 8 different, and then have choices and stuff like that. You're designing potentially, I don't know, 20 different models. So you've got to find a sculptor who's going to take the time to do that. It's going to cost $500 to $750 per sculpt, probably, to get STL quality stuff. Like, it's a huge thing. You know what I mean? So, because, like, yeah, if we were just going to like put out like, oh, here's the one model that's used for this game, okay, but that's not the case. You got to, so that's why we just aren't really doing that. Again, like I said, down the road, maybe we'll add some things that you can use as a cut. But for the most part, we really want you to go out there and find cool stuff. And we're going to, like I said, make a blog post, maybe even this upcoming week, about like, here's some options, here's some things you might want to look at, here's some companies that do some stuff to give you some ideas, that kind of stuff. But honestly, just if you go to My Mini Factory, if you're interested in STLs, go to My Mini Factory and type in, sci-fi 28 millimeter or something like that. Or, there's all like, killer robots, or there's so many search terms you can look for on My Mini Factory to find models that you'd be like, oh, this is cool. That's the place I would start. If you have access to 3D printing, you definitely want to go to My Mini Factory. Would you consider working with a sculptor? They have the rights to sell the minis themselves, more of a partnership? I don't know, maybe. Like there was a guy last game who produced a bunch of models, like a bunch of demons, and he had a Kickstarter, and he was like, oh, these are demons for Rain and Hell. And we were like, so we didn't tell him to stop per se, but we did say, hey, could you just mention in the Kickstarter that you're not affiliated with us? And this is because we didn't make any, like, this is the reason why GW changes the names of so many things. Like, the names of our demons were all like stuff like Mephit and, things that you can't really copyright because it's just an actual word, Mephit, or, what are some of the other ones? Venom Queen, that's not one of the regular minions. Armored Demon, like that's not a proper name that you can go with, copyright Armored Demon or trademark Armored Demon, Spine Demon, stuff like that. You can't really do those. So when this person was like, hey, I'm going to sculpt a bunch of these things and then put them out there, that's cool. But we just were like, hey, can you just say that we're not affiliated? And he was like, oh yeah, sorry. So if someone was just like, hey, these are a bunch of things inspired by Space Station Zero and you wanted to put them out there, that's, again, that's up to you. But yeah, we haven't come across like anybody that we haven't gotten to that point where we decided we want to start to going down that road. But for the most part, we kind of want to focus on rules. So you and Vince make the best, most relatable content for all skill levels. When you both drop content, I know I'm learning from people that understand life in the hobby. Thanks. Well, I appreciate that, Grendel. That's very nice of you to say. Getting ready to paint a large batch of terrain and heard that some people use house paints as a cheaper alternative to model paints. Have you ever had any advice for this sort of terrain? If you want stuff to look real rough, you could use it like a latex like house paint, or if you're going to use it for like hills or things like that. But if you're working on plastic kits with a good amount of detail, that stuff will definitely fill in that detail. So you may not want to use it on that. But if you're making like cool rocky outcroppings and hills and stuff like that, protecting it with like a nice latex, like water-based house paint would actually work quite well. And you could even sprinkle in some cool sand and stuff into it so it gives it more of a texture. Yeah, I've used that stuff on organic like terrain, like making a hill or whatever, making a rocky outcropping or whatever. But I've not used it ever on like an actual like nice plastic kit, or even something that I've scratch built like walls and like a ruin or something like that. I've not used it on something like that because then it will just sort of clog up any detail that you might have put into it. So let's see here. When does your episode of Trapped Under Plastic come out? I don't know. I'm assuming not tomorrow, but if it's coming out the next issue or episode, then it would be not tomorrow, but next week, Monday. But they may have another episode in between me and Vince if they want to spread it out, or I don't know. They haven't said, but soonish, I assume. Yeah. Hope you're good. Got my Space Station Zero book this week. Just wanted to thank you and Vince, and can't wait to play. Well, thank you, Danny. Sorry, I appreciate that. Salute is a one-day convention still. Really? I thought it was a 2-day thing that they moved it to that. Part of it for me is that most UK travel can be in a day. Well, sure, or on the day. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, that's true. The Ram. Yeah, that was the hotel, or not the hotel, the restaurant that used to get. Well, but I think that the t-shirts with the built-in capes and all that kind of stuff was a hotel. Well, it was a restaurant that was underneath the Embassy Suites that used to be called. It was a sports bar. Not a bar. It was the Indianapolis Colts restaurant or pub or something like that. It was like, branded with the football team of the city. And it is now something else. I think it's a steakhouse or something. It's not that anymore. But at the time, I remember them having like all the TVs, which would normally be playing sports and stuff. They were all playing like The Hobbit, like not the Lord of the Rings movies, but the Hobbit movie, not the animated one, but you know what I'm saying. Martin Freeman, that one. So there was The Hobbit, and they were all wearing those shirts with the capes. And I think they had a bunch of big like Wizards of the Coast, like Magic the Gathering, like clings in the windows and stuff like that and everything. But the Ram also used to go crazy with that stuff too. They were more tightly affiliated with Privateer Press. So they had a lot of like Privateer Press, like War Machine, like themed foods and whatnot, dishes and such. I've been to cons in both the US and the UK, and we in the US definitely do it. Nerds gone wild. Well, try and stop us, I guess. Our local pub renames their burger after a beloved classic board game and sell it cheaper to anyone playing board games during their board game days in the winter. Does that count? I mean, I think so. I think it's smart to go down that road. You know what I mean? I don't know why you wouldn't. Oh my goodness, I'm very far behind. The RAM, there we go. Just joined, so sorry if off topic. Do you plan on to do any video on the one-page rules games, like an overview of the different games or something? I mean, I did a why I like it about one-page rules a month and a half ago, maybe, something like that. But I did not go through and talk about every single, different, because they've got a lot of games out there. I am also getting into Grimdark Future Firefight, which is their sci-fi skirmish game. I've actually been working on some, let's see, I've got one HQ guy I have to finish a Necron, and then I have a force of whatever they're called, robot overlords or whatever, because I already have the other ones all painted. I have a single model I have to finish, which is getting real close to being finished, and then I'll have machine cults, which is basically AdMech, because I have all the rest of those guys done, but I need to get the HQ unit done. I have 2 units, 2 separate forces built that are basically Battle Brothers, aka Space Marines, but they're built from the what the heck kit, Horus Heresy stuff, and then I swapped out the heads. Do I have anything else? I thought I had another group. AdMech, Necrons. Those are the only ones I have currently in progress, but I know I have... Oh, no, I haven't come up with a list yet, but I'm going to do one for Imperial Guard, because I have a bunch of Imperial Guard from when I was playing 2018 Kill Team, so I could easily just grab a bunch of those guys and go, boom, here's another list, but I just haven't done it yet. I was busy. Do you have any opinions on the slap chop painting method? I mean, it's what I generally kind of do to some degree. I have a tendency to use my airbrush more than dry brushing, but I know that Rob made a video and called it the slap chop method, but it's been something that's been around for a long time. Like, I made a video about showing you the difference between airbrushing the Zenithal, rattle canning the Zenithal, or dry brushing the Zenithal a couple of years ago. So it's nothing new. It's nothing that was recently invented. People have been doing it for a long time. Rob put a name on it, which is fine. So yeah, but it's the way I generally paint. I more often than not start out by priming a model black, and then I either, like I said, airbrush a white from above, or maybe dry brush white. And sometimes it's not. Like when I was working on my Necrons, it was, prime them all black and then dry brush them silver instead of, white, right? And then you go back in with transparent colors and then paint over the top of that. I do the majority of my painting with transparent colors, contrasts, speed paints, etc., washes, all kinds of stuff like that, glazes, over a black and white Zenithal. It's the way that I do the majority of my painting. So now, sometimes, like on the Tech Priest Dominus that I'm working on right now on Twitch, on and off, I started out actually by priming him a dark brown and then spraying him from above with a Zenithal of like a lighter brown, because he was mostly robe. And then everything else after that, I'm going back in and painting opaque. So I'm like, he's got silver pinchy bits and all kinds of stuff. So that's painting over the top of that. But yeah, no, it's the way to paint, honestly. If I was into display painting and whatnot, then that would be a different story. You probably kind of handle things a bit differently, But for getting stuff on tabletop, that whole painting transparent colors over a black and white Zenithal, it's been around for a long time, but it's also the way to go, in my opinion. So I do it most of the time. Now, obviously, you do that, but you still have like a big sword. Well, you're going to put opaque metallic over that. Or maybe you do opaque, skin tone. It totally depends. It's a mixture of all these things, and it's a great way to get stuff done. I'd bet money that Votann will be in one of the next Kill Team boxes. Yeah, it could be. I could see that. Let's see. I think the squats in diving suits are part of the Necromunda line and already released. Yeah. I have a box of them somewhere. I thought they were within arm's reach, but I think they're actually not. But yeah, the ones they're painted in with those yellow helmets and stuff like that. I don't like those squats as much. They're okay. I think that it could be just the yellow helmets. I don't know. The 40K ones I like a little better. Let's see here. There used to be box sets of figures for zombie type games called Survivors. They were plastic, and they were either 24 or 30 miniatures in each box. I can't remember who made them. Wargame Foundry, something like that. Because yeah, I know what you're talking about. I have a box. There were Apocalypse Survivors the women and Apocalypse Survivors the men, or something like that. And I think I have a box of each. And you're right. They came with a bunch of models in there, and they came with 6 billion guns. Like, you're like, oh, there's 30 models in here. There's 200 guns. And you're like, that's a lot of guns. Like, it's just like you have so many options. It's one of those kits where you buy it because you're like, oh, well, I want bits for the rest of my life. The Wargames Atlantic stuff is the same way. Oh, there's just 30 models in this box, but there's 192 heads. And you're like, that's okay, you know, because they want to give you as many options as possible, which is great. And then again, you have heads for every other model you might build for the rest of your life. So yeah, that stuff's pretty cool. All my dwarves have a North Wisconsin accent because that's all I know. Makes sense. Oh, crepes. Let's see here. There are clan expansion boxes and inner sphere expansion boxes for Battletech. Each comes with minis and cards. There's no right way to expand. Boxes are themed after their battlefield role. Nice. Did you get anything from the Bits vendor at Nova? That was a dangerous booth. I did. Yeah, actually, I've showed a bunch of it. I was messing around with it. Not this last... not Friday, but Monday, this last week. On Twitch, I was going through and fixing some of this. Like, I bought a bunch of like built models. I came home with a bunch of like I came home with another Tech Priest Dominus, but he's like missing some parts. Doesn't have his backpack, so I'm gonna fix. I'm just gonna I don't know, put different things on him, make him look a little different. He's got a different gun too, but otherwise he's basically kind of the same as the one that I'm painting now. I came up with a couple of different Space Marines. I came up with some projects where I'm like, I could see myself using these to do some, I don't want to say testing, but like make some videos about like how to use oil washes. And this is what you do. And the thing is, if I do like a video, it's kind of crazy, but if I did an oil wash video on something I 3D printed or some model made by somebody else, it would get okay views, but you do oil washing on a cool Space Marine and it's going to get more eyeballs because people are going to be like, oh, I like Space Marines, and they click on it. That's just the way things work. It's like complaining that people are like, oh, well, those Marvel movies, a lot of people sure do go to them. Yeah, because they like them, you know. I mean, popular things are popular, just the way it works. It's not anyone trying to, strike you down. It's just the way things work. So sometimes when you want to do that kind of stuff, you go, okay, well, I'm going to paint on a Space Marine and show you how to put oil wash on a Space Marine. Because the thing is that, honestly, with Space Marines, it actually looks kind of cool because it makes them all grungy and whatnot, which I like a good grungy Space Marine. There you go. What else did I get from there? I came home with some Poxwalkers that were painted, and I don't like the paint jobs very much. But they're already all built, and I don't have to build them, so that's awesome. I bought some of those. I'm going to use those in Space Station Zero, but I'm going to repaint them first. I will not be stripping them. I'm just going to prime right over the top of them and go to town. They're Poxwalkers. If the paint's on there just a little thick, well, it's just extra pox. You know what I mean? AK Ultramat is my go-to for very flat or very matte varnish. Yeah, it's what I've got too. I'm hoping that soon Monument makes a new flat varnish because I don't want to buy any more AK Interactive. Are you gentlemen pondering some sort of sports game or racing game? No. Neither of us is particularly into sports, so that doesn't seem to be a thing for us. Moving on from the game of armored combat depends on what you want to do. If you want different unit types, then Total Warfare. If you want different styles of mechs, then the Clan Invasion box. Gotcha. Good morning from Alaska, where it's apparently going to rain until it starts snowing. Yeah, we're supposed to get rain all the rest of the day and a good portion most of tomorrow, from what I understand. But that's okay. We kind of probably needed it, I keep forgetting about My Mini Factory. They are good. Yeah, honestly, that's like, I think it's the best place to get STLs. Like, I can't think of a place that's any better. Now, you do end up paying for many of them, the good ones, but I want to support the artists who do good work. So yeah, I'm got no problem with that. It's not like you're going to go like, oh, it's $38 to get this one dude. No, it's like $6, and then you get this model, and they have options and all kinds of stuff and blah blah or whatever. And so yeah, definitely, if you've got a 3D printer, you need to know about My Mini Factory. If you want to print miniatures and stuff, like if you're just like, no, I want to print like, I don't know, stuff that I designed, well, that's a different story altogether. But if you're like, I have a 3D printer, I want to make miniatures, I want to print miniatures that other people have sculpted, myminifactory.com. Hashtag not sponsored. Accessory sprues to augment existing kits would be a cool alternative, but honestly, I have my own ideas for figs using North Star multi-part kits. Yeah, those, like the guys and girls, they've got multiple kits now. The North Star military figures models for Stargrave would work spectacularly for Space Station Zero. If you want humans, well, actually, I take that back. They have alien heads too that you can snap on there. So yeah, you've got options there too. But you'd also just take like a body from North Star and a weird alien head from, I don't know, you could throw like a Tyranid, well, maybe not a Tyranid head, but you could throw something weird head. Like one thing I want to do is I want to take the heads from Plague Monks from GW, Skaven Plague Monks. I want to take those heads and put them on Genestealer Cult bodies, because then you'll have cool rat guys, which remind me a bit of the Rat Daddy from, which is what people have been referring to him from Space Station Zero. There's that one piece of artwork with the guy's got the rat head, and he's got like a, I don't know, it looks like a regular, like almost like a modern day assault rifle, but like sort of tweaked. And then he's got like robot arms that are coming out from his like backpack that's holding like a thing that looks almost like a heavy bolter as well. So he's shooting like two guns at once and stuff like that. It's an awesome piece of artwork. And I kind of want to make a model that looks like it. So I think that maybe a mixture of some clan rats, like I said, like a head from like Plague Monks, which I've got to have a Plague Monk, a couple of models still laying around somewhere. But a head from that, a Genestealer Cult body. I don't know where I get the robot arms from. I might have to fake that a little bit. I'm not sure. And then I could just grab a tail from like a regular Clan Rats box and just get the longest tail possible, clip it, and then glue it to the back of the guy. I think it'd be kind of cool. It'd be fun. Played and filmed my first 5 Parsecs mission and had a great time. Nice. Spent the week learning Vegas Pro to edit a vid, enjoying my hobby going into the fall. Nice. Yeah, I use Vegas Pro myself. I have not upgraded to version 20 yet. I'm still on 19. I mean, I bought it. I just haven't taken the time to go through and update it. Any thoughts on clear bases? Advise on doing it? Or advice, I probably. The only thing I know about clear bases is that you want to use, I think, plastic cement when you glue your models to them. If you use like super glue or CA glue, cyanoacrylate glue or whatever, it will fog the clear base. The fumes as it dries will cause the clear base to get cloudy. So you don't want that. So you'd want to use plastic cement. Whoops. Everything scrolled. Let's see here. Somehow I cannot get into my Instagram. I hate technology. Well, Instagram sort of sucks lately. I'm hyped for the new Stargrave solo splat book. Double down on solo sci-fi skirmishing. Indeed. I love your focus on rules and mini agnosticism, but wow, would Will Kirkby's minis be great? His suits, costumes, and alien designs would make a nice modular 3D printable set on my mini factory. There's a person who's in the Discord who has been 3D sculpting a few of the heads from some of the artwork. There's like a lizard guy. I think he's working on the Rat Daddy head and stuff like that. I don't know what his, like, the thing is because he's basing it off the artwork. I don't know that he could sell it per se. I don't know exactly what the plan is, but he's showed some of that stuff and it's been kind of cool. The trick is getting somebody who's good at sculpting to be able to recreate that stuff. And to be fair, the person who's been doing the stuff is good, but they've also been, how do I want to say this? They've been kind of hitting some low-hanging fruit in that they're sculpting stuff, people who have been in profile. So like that lizard guy in the cockpit looking at, in the early part of the book, that's like an in profile shot. And the Rat Daddy guy is also like in profile. If the shot was like more 3/4, you're going to take this and go, okay, now I need to sculpt that to make it in 3D. It's hard to know where stuff is because it's not a straight on shot and also a profile shot. You know what I mean? So I think that a lot of people don't understand how much work goes, just because there's so many STLs out there now in the world. There's tons of people making them, but they take a ton of time. And so if you're doing it for your Patreon and you know that the money's coming in, that's what you do as a day job, and it works out great. And if you got the good skill, you're making good money, and it's great. But when someone comes and says, I want to pay you to do this now, especially if you have a Patreon that's making money, I as the sculptor have to charge you a lot more to get stuff done to make it worth my while, as opposed to just working on the stuff that I want to work on that my patrons are expecting. You see what I'm saying? So you either have to find somebody who hasn't started that Patreon thing yet to do the sculpting, which is difficult because anyone who's doing even pretty good work is out there doing the Patreon thing because it makes a lot of sense. Or yeah, it's tough finding sculptors right now is the long term. Even if you find a sculptor, it is amazingly difficult to do entire full scale 28 millimeter people and then do a whole bunch of them so people have options. Yeah, it's a huge ask. I just ordered some Bunswear in gas masks last night for Zona Alpha, given that I had one already. There you go. Seems weird to me that the UK doesn't promote cons like that. I mean, I always had the feeling that up until like the last decade or so, gaming was much more mainstream in the UK than in the US. Yeah, I couldn't figure it out either. I don't know. Are Vince and you going to stick with skirmish games, or will you make a larger scale game? I don't see us making a larger scale game. I personally am not interested in army games. So, I mean, I know Vince plays Age of Sigmar, but even Age of Sigmar is not as big as, like, let's say, something that's more rank and flank or 40K or whatever. You generally still have fewer models, depending on the army. But, yeah, I think we're going to focus predominantly on skirmish. And, you know, because that's kind of what we like. Hi, all got Space Station 0 yesterday. Good stuff. Gives me a reason to build and paint Imperial Death Troops today using Vince's speed paint tutorial. My crew, good times. Nice. Yeah, I haven't got a chance to watch the Vince's video from yesterday, which was about speed painting, like, loyalist Marines. I'm assuming he's going to do a Chaos one at some point, too. But, yeah, looking forward to that. You have Tyranids as well for Grimdark Future Firefight? Oh, yeah, no, you're right. Good point. I have Gene Stealers and Warriors that I did for Kill Team. I could use those. Yeah. Yeah, those guys are all painted up. I mean, if I could build a decent list with those, yeah, I could probably pull that off. Any comment on the rumor that your next game will allow Vince to field his entire list of 10,000 points of Tomb Kings? I don't think that's the case. No. Let's see here. I've not read the rules on any of the games, but does it get broken by models with larger bases? For example, War Machine have 30, 40, 50, 120. You mean on our games? Or are you talking about something else? If it's our games, generally with a new game, we're telling you it's best to stick between 25 and 40 millimeters for the bases. Now, on some of the enemies, you could go a little bigger. I've got a couple of robots that I've got that are on either 50s or 60s. 50s, I think. But yeah, no, 60 is like 60 is the same size as like a Demon Prince, right? Is that a 60 millimeter base? I've got them on 50s then. And on in Rain and Hell, there's one of the scenarios called the Beast, where you're supposed to be going up against a creature that's at least 60 millimeters, if not a bit bigger. So there's options there. You've got some variability, but we're not saying you have to use this size, you have to use that size. The only downside is if you use like really big bases, you're just going to find yourself kind of sometimes you're going to have to either move your terrain apart a little bit more, and some of the scenarios you might have a hard time fitting your people into the deployment zone. But again, it's a tabletop game. You can tweak things however you want to make it work the way you want it to work. It was Wargame Factory and then Warlord, if I remember correctly. Gotcha. For the Apocalypse Survivor models. Because there was Wargames Foundry a while ago and then Wargames Factory. And it's, yeah. Speaking of Kill Team, did you see Sword and Steel's video on the wall terrain? She was waving it around as if it was one piece. No, I didn't. Well, I mean, once you lock that stuff together, it's going to stay together. I mean, I'm pretty sure. But no, I haven't seen that video. It hasn't showed up my stuff. Let's see here. I'm sure that GW are like that way anyway with all the spare bits. Buy 10 orcs, then you get half the mass of plastic in the kit comprising of optional parts you're not going to use. Like, there's like, sure, they give you like options and stuff like that, but there are some companies, like I said, Wargames Atlantic is one of them. I bought some models from them. Like the first box I ever bought from them, I think it had 25 or 24 or maybe 30 models in it, but I counted and it was way more than 100 heads. 150, it was just like so many options. And I'm like, geez, that's a lot of heads. But now, you know, I technically have so many different heads I could use, so that's kind of cool. Okay, the mental image of a dwarf with a Wisconsin accent is hysterical to me. Then I went a little further and thought of the dwarf that sounds like Bob and Doug McKenzie. Nice. Good old Bob and Doug. I haven't watched Strange Brew in a really long time. Do you have any tips on how to make assembling plastic miniatures a less messy progress? I also end up with glue all over my hands, lots of glue, and a loss of dignity. I don't seem to glue. Well, I do get glue on my fingers. I'm not gonna lie. I do get CA glue on my fingers. Try to use less glue. That's what I have a tendency to over glue sometimes myself. So yeah, using less glue is probably a better idea. Have you seen the Idols of Torment game from Black Magic Craft? I've heard of it. I don't know anything about it other than, did he do a Kickstarter or is he going to do a Kickstarter? I know there was Kickstarter involved. I know that 52 Miniatures recently released a video where he made some music inspired by the game, so that's kind of cool. But otherwise, I don't really know much about it other than that it's something that that he's been working on. But yeah, no, that's cool though. I like seeing, you know, folks like when, you know, it just makes sense. Like that's why we started making games, is because we're interested in doing it, and we also had, you know, we after a decade of basically of making videos, we're like, well, we have an audience of people who kind of like the same thing we like. I assume so. Therefore, you know, if we make a game that we like, then very possibly they might like it, and it just makes sense. Now, from what I know, he's going the opposite direction. Well, opposite's a strong word. He's going a different direction in that he is producing a bunch of miniatures, which means I'm assuming he's working with a whole bunch of sculptors, and there's all kinds of stuff going on and all that kind of jazz. From what I saw, there was like an intro video that I saw maybe last year or earlier this year. It's kind of time is a flat circle sort of situation. But otherwise, yeah, honestly, I don't know a ton about it. But yeah, from what I understood, it was not just like a rule set like we're doing, you know. Green Stuff World Max Matte is just as good as AK. I actually, for the first time ever, actually saw a Green Stuff World product in the wild. That wasn't those acrylic rollers. I have seen those in the past at conventions. But this past, well, not this past weekend, this weekend that we're still in, but the weekend previously when I was at the Nova Open in DC, Washington, DC, in the vendor area, one of the companies that was there was not Green Stuff World specifically. It was a company that was selling their stuff, though. It was a company like a store. I don't remember where they're located, but they're a store, and they were selling a bunch of different things, but they were also had a huge rack of Green Stuff World stuff. I actually bought 2 boxes of liquid pigments. There was a group called, a color grouping of, I think, 6 bottles called Rust, and another one called Dust. And they're these liquid pigments that you... It's like putting on regular pigments, except that you put them on with a brush and a liquid, and then when it dries, it looks like regular pigment, but you don't have to go through and put a fixative over the top of it or anything like that. And you can still blend it while it's still wet a little bit to kind of get it to feather a bit and all that kind of stuff. So I really am looking forward to trying that stuff out. But that was literally the first time I've ever seen their stuff in a store or at a convention or any place. I've just never come across it. So I did not see the Max Matte stuff, so I don't know. I should take a look at that. Did you see the WizKids' new overpriced kits? Some of them are kind of more expensive than you would think, and the other ones not so much. Like their normal... So like this guy here, Human Fighter, he's like 15 bucks. That's not terrible, especially when you compare it to like a single figure from GW is very frequently $35. And this guy has got lots of options. So you're like, do you want to give him a flail? Do you want to give him a sword? Do you want to give him a cape? Do you want to give him not a cape? Well, actually the cape I think you have to give him. Well, no, you could not give him the cape. You got different shield options. You got lots of different options, and that's not bad. So for a dude like this, 15 bucks with a lot of different options, different heads, all that kind of jazz, yeah, it's cool. When you start getting into, hey, would you like to buy 5 goblins for $60? Now we're getting into GW price territory. And I'm like, huh. Or maybe even a little bit above that. So some of their stuff is like their single figures are like not bad. But when you start getting into groups of models, they don't. Then they do seem a little bit more expensive, at least in my opinion. I have not looked at any of the big monstrous guys, although from what I understand, from the time that they were first announced and a lot of stores started to pre-order them to the time that they actually released, the prices on the big guys almost doubled. And it was just like, oh well, yeah, that's how much they cost now. And then the stores were like, wasn't me. So yeah, I don't know. Like I said, for the single figures, they're actually, and I kind of want to do a video about single figures, or at least one or two of the single figures. But I haven't yet. So they're not bad, but there's plenty in that line where I'm like, huh, that is a surprising price. Mantic has space rats, and on time it had bionic space rats. Nice. Let's see. Loving Space Station Zero so far. First two crew going to be the Metanoids, Science Data Crew, nice, using Lego minifigs, nice, and the Sentient Roombas of Sol 16 Industrial Hauler using Urbimex from Battletech, nice. All that happens is if you start a Patreon, you get a bunch of people talking about Robot Squirrel. That's what I've learned. I mean, I suppose. Hi, Adam. How was Nova? It was good. Well, yeah, it was a good time. It was good to be back. It had been like they did not have Nova 2020, obviously. They did not have Nova 2021 either. And then, so this was the first one back. It's under new management, ownership. Different people the people who ran it for the last like 9 or 10 years are now not running it, and now new people are running it, and they seem like they're doing good work. Like I said, I met a bunch of them, and they're all very nice folks. And like I was concerned, I'm like, I don't know if they're gonna change a bunch of things or whatever, but everything seemed to run real smoothly. It did not seem particularly different to me than it used to, for the most part. The big painting contest, the big painting competition, the Capital Palette, was awesome. Just an amazing. I posted a bunch of pictures of a bunch of amazing stuff that was in there. Vince won a bunch of stuff. Our friend Emily, aka the Registered Nerd here, she also won. She entered a bust. What's her name? Professor McGonagall from Harry Potter. It was a little bust, but yeah. Anyway, very cool. Yeah, and so yeah, I like the thing I like about the Capital Palette, which I think is really interesting, and I don't see it too much in other painting competitions, is they have 3 different classifications. You've got apprentice, meaning you've probably never entered a contest before, so, you know, and then you've got journeyman, which means, yeah, this is not your first rodeo, but, you know, and then you've got master, which is supposed to be for folks who are like, you've won contests before, you've won competitions before, and you want to be held at a higher thing, you know. So Vince's stuff was all in the master category. Emily's bust was in, I believe, journeyman, so that's the next step up. But I like that there's that, you know, because there's a lot of folks out there who would be like, I'd be interested in you know, like, it would be cool to enter Golden Demon, but you're like, but I mean, you know, they do have some sort of categories. They have got the Young Bloods, which is like for people under the age of 16 or 13 or something like that. But like, if you're just like, oh, I just started painting a little while ago and I think it'd be fun to put it in competition, you know, I mean, you can technically, but, you know, but having the ability to still, you know, be judged against other people in your kind of skill level by having those 3 different categories, apprentice and journeyman and master, I think is a cool concept. So I really like that they kept that as well, because that's not new. That's the way they've done the Capital Palette for a while, which is nice. What about something the size of Sludge using multi-basing? I don't like multi-basing. I'm not into rank and flank. Never have been. So yeah. UK conventions tend to not be very commercial. They are organized by clubs and volunteers, even salute. That makes sense. Sure, I get that. 3D modeling is very hard and takes a long time. It's a full 4 years plus worth of schooling. Yeah, oh, sure. Zvezda are Russian, so they can go without until the war is over. I'm not sure what that's, I don't know what that related to. There's another great thing about my mini factory. You go there, you look over the figures that are available, find the artist who produces the things that you really like, and then go support him on Patreon. Yeah, or even support them there too, because my mini factory now has like a thing that's like Patreon. What do they call it? Tribes? Maybe it's tribes. They basically, like, my mini factory is like, look, rather than dealing with Kickstarter, we made our own Kickstarter just for people who are 3D sculptors. So it's got features that do that. And they also have done now, I think, the same as well for Patreon. So you could still use Patreon if you wanted to, but you could also just be like, look, I'm going to switch everything over to Tribes, so you folks can come over here and support me at Tribes, and then it's a bit more automated to get your stuff and all that kind of junk and whatever. I don't know. The other thing I like about my mini factory too is that you get, like, as the artist, you get more than 90% of the fee. Like, if this thing costs $5, you get 90 or 92% of it as the artist, which is very cool. I think that's great. My local hobby shop has Beastgrave on sale for $50. Is that worth picking up? I absolutely adore the Underworlds models. The Beast models in that, the Beastman models in that box are really cool. I'm not a fan of the kind of more Wood Elf models. They're well done. They're just not aesthetically my jam, and I don't, but the Beastman models are pretty cool. So if you're into that, and it's a decent game. I mean, I think it's still a pretty good, what do you call it? Gateway game, between board gaming and getting into miniatures and such. So it's easier to teach people kind of how to play it who are not interested in board game or in miniature gaming, but they like board games and stuff. Hey, Blue 9, how you doing? I think the Halfling box set for Wargames Atlantic is like 40 minis, as I recall. Well, they're smaller, so it's like half, you know what I mean? That's how they get you. Took me 2 decades and 1-page rules to realize I don't care for army-sized games. Yeah, that's, I think understanding that is super important, because makes you a lot happier as a gamer once you go, you know what? I don't like this style of game. I should try something else. Let's see here. Oh, that was the GW police on their way to raid somebody that was using different rules with their models. I think you might be right. That's what that was. These Space Station models, the Space Station Zero minis were sculpted in 3B. 3 beers, and it looks good, eh? I get you. I see where you're going. Thoughts on using methyl ethyl ketone as a cement glue substitute for thin Tamiya? It works very well and much cheaper. I've never even heard of that stuff. I don't think. It sounds flammable. I mean, to be fair, the Tamiya stuff, I'm sure, is flammable as well. Most things are flammable, really, if you put your mind to it. But no, I've not heard of that stuff. No. I often compare. The only time I ever use plastic cement ever is for plastic terrain kits. I never use it on my miniatures. I know Vince thinks I'm crazy, but I never use it on my miniatures. I always use CA glue. I hate those squeeze bottles for polystyrene cement, not conductive to building at anything like an efficient rate, needing to burn out the stupid tip between every single application. I haven't had too much problem with that myself, but I don't know. Tribes. Yeah, that's what it's called, Tribes. Tech Mechanic. First time I've gotten out of bed early enough to join live. Well, we're glad to have you. Absolutely. Let's see. My brother-in-law gives me more every month. He got the Hot Wheels Jones Bad, now a serious collector. Oh, there you go. I do love those Hot Wheels restoration and repainting videos. Yeah, I got to be honest. If I was going to, I don't know that I would strip the paint off. If I like if you're doing Gaslands, right? So you've got like some Hot Wheels car or whatever that you got from the grocery store or department store or whatever. There's a lot of Hot Wheels sold at my grocery store, which is weird. They're always like on a weird end cap, and in the past they were like as cheap as like 88 cents, and I was like, that's weird. Anyway, but sometimes they have like decals on them. They have like stickers basically on them. So that I'm going to try to figure out how to get off, whether it's with sanding it off or peeling it off in some fashion. They're on there pretty good. Probably so kids don't swallow them or something, the stickers, right? So that part I'm going to get off. But the rest of the paint, I don't care. I'm going to prime over the top of it because these cars are supposed to be a little beat up because they are in, you know, vehicular combat and whatever. And so I'm okay with that. But the stickers, when you prime over the top of them, you'll literally see the outline of the sticker. Like, it'll definitely stand out, especially if you dry brush the thing. So that I want to get off. But otherwise, the rest of it, I'm not going to sit there and like strip all the model and go through all that stuff. That's just personal. Me. I don't want to do that. Never used plastic cement, either CA or super glue. Yeah, like I said, I've been using the extra thin, like quick drying stuff on the terrain that I've been building for that Rampart Kickstarter that I did. And it's been working great. It's been sticking that stuff together great. The reason I use the reason I use plastic cement on terrain is because terrain has a tendency to get kind of kicked around a little bit more than you do your models. You're a little bit more careful with your models than you are with your terrain. So I feel like having really good, like almost plastic welds on your terrain makes a ton of sense. With my miniatures, there's a time, and it happens when you're like, you know what? I don't like this basing anymore, and you want to pop it off. And if it's plastic cemented on there, you're going to have to cut it off. Sometimes you're like, you know what? This arm is not right, and you want to be able to pop it off. You can take a CA glued model, put the entire thing in the freezer for like a day or so, and then it will almost fall apart. You can easily do that. But even if you're just like, I don't want the rest of it to be separated, I just want this arm or just want this head, if you just basically grab it and like hold like firm on the rest of the model and just start to worry the arm back and forth, just wiggle it just a little bit and just keep going back and forth with it, eventually it will pop if you've used CA glue. If you use plastic cement, the way plastic cement is it literally melts both sides of the piece as you're sticking it together, and then they become kind of like one piece, and it's way harder to bust apart plastic cement. So again, for your terrain, plastic kits totally makes sense. If you're not building plastic kits, if you're building stuff out of toothpicks or paper clips or whatever, then you have to use CA glue because plastic cement won't work on non-plastic. But for plastic kits, yeah, I use the stuff. 16 Poxwalkers assembled this morning. Now it's prime time. Nice. Prime time. And apparently they include about a half of a Plague Marine on the sprue. Weird. I use mech to strip paint off of metal minis. It's very flammable and pretty toxic. You need to be super careful with it, but for stripping paint off metal minis, it works particularly well. Yeah, there's all kinds of like acetone and stuff like that. There's a lot of things that are super dangerous and flammable, but boy, will they strip the metal off, the paint off of metal. Do not use them on plastics because they will just melt the plastic. Do not use them on resin. Same thing. But on metal models, yeah, definitely. There's definitely some stuff you can use for that. Why not produce some posters/slogans and place them like the decal over the sticker for those cars? I mean, yeah, you could if you wanted to go down that road. But for me, it'd be easy enough just to like take an X-Acto and try to peel the decal off and then get rid of it, or just sand it off potentially even too. I mean, it's not a bad idea, honestly. Like if, let's say there's not really any decals on that. Let's say they printed everything on there or whatever. It's still not a bad idea to sand your Hot Wheels cars before you start priming, just because it gives something, the primer, even a little bit more to stick to, you know, that texture. So use odorless paint stripper to remove paint from Hot Wheels. Throw them in a can on it for a few hours. Strips it bare. The decals on the Hot Wheels are called tampos. Use some fine sandpaper or steel wool on them. You don't have to take them all off. A little work and it will thin the tampos and feather the edges. Prime go. That's interesting. Just about to try sponge damage on a Marine for the first time. Any tips, mate? Yeah. generally, if you can, find some sort of tweezers or something to hold the sponge. And the reason for that is twofold. Number one, you don't get paint all over your fingers, which washes off. It's not the end of the world, but it's still something. Number two, and I think more importantly, it is easier for you to turn tweezers than it is for you if you're pinching this thing to turn your wrist. You know what I mean? And the reason you want to turn is because let's say that I was going to sponge this thing of glue. I don't know why I would, but let's say I was. I don't have any sponge here. But when you are poking it and putting, you know, you've dabbed in some paint, you maybe dabbed a little bit onto a paper towel to not have too much paint on there. If you keep dabbing exactly at the same direction, it will look like a stamp kind of, and it will look or like a cloning tool in Photoshop, and everything will be identical. You'll have like dot, 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 and they will be in the exact same layout if you pushed it here versus if you pushed it here versus, so you'll get a repeating pattern is my point. So what you do is you go poke, you turn, poke, you turn, poke. So it's like you're taking a stamp and spinning it every time that you actually sit down and hit the paper with it, or, you know, in this situation, the model. So rotating is a good idea, and having a tweezers or something like that where you can do that also makes it easier for you to rotate it between your fingers versus like turning your whole wrist when you're doing it. I don't know. That's the way I do it. I find that that works out pretty well. I screwed up building the Shrike Talon of my Corvus Cabal with Tamiya extra thin, and now it looks like crap. Never again. CA for my models always. Yeah, I put some of my Corvus Cabal guys on the wrong size base because I did not realize that there were both 25 and 28 millimeter bases in that set. And I didn't even know they had started making 28s at that point. It was the first kit I ever used that had 28s in it because that was a new base size. And I just assumed they were 25s. And then I was like, wait, what? And I started looking at the instructions after I glued some of them together and put them on bases. Now, again, I use CA glue, so I could easily just kind of, well, I could sort of easily pop it off, but they're so skinny and got little bird legs because they're bird people, basically, or whatever, or trying to be bird people. They want to be birds so bad, those Corvus Cabal guys. Yeah, I haven't gone super far. Honestly, those Corvus Cabal models are a pain in the butt to build. They don't go together as nicely as most other GW models. I was kind of surprised. So yeah. MEK will absorb into your skin and collect in your liver. It also can affect your sense of smell. Well, that sounds terrible. I don't think I want that. Yeah. A lot of the times for my Gaslands builds, I will go with the factory paint, just scuff it up and weather the heck out of it. Not much remains. And what does is weathered. Yeah, that makes sense too. I can get that. Let's see here. My go-to is Easy Off oven cleaner for stripping paint and chrome from Hot Wheels cars. I've heard that, yeah, it works fine on metal, but I would not use it on plastic. So for those of you out there like, oh, Easy Off, I've got that. I'm going to strip a bunch of resin or plastic models. That you might not want to do, but metal models, yeah, it's fine. All the chemicals in this hobby, it's a wonder we're still alive. No, indeed, indeed. Plus, after all the rams, guns, armor plates, and spikes I put on my cars, not much of the original surface is visible. That makes sense, too. I get it. But yeah, so it was I was glad to go again to the convention. I did not enjoy, well, it was okay. I was going to say my flight out there was not ideal. It could have been way worse. Could have been canceled, delayed, this and that and the other thing all day long. I somehow was a moron and made it so that my flight was from Appleton, Wisconsin to Detroit, and then Detroit down to Atlanta, and then 2.5 hours in Atlanta sitting around, and then back up to DC. Usually it's Appleton, Detroit, DC. And each of those flights is like an hour and 5 minutes, and it's pretty quick. But no, I don't know how I thought that was a good idea back in April when I booked a flight, but I did. On the way home, it was way better. It was just Detroit or DC, Detroit, Appleton is fine. The downside also was that when I got home, I get to the airport. I'm waiting for my luggage to come through the thingy. I didn't check luggage on the way out there, but on the way back, I brought back so much stuff that actually Emily, my friend Emily, the registered nerd, gave me a tote bag that she had gotten as part of her swag bag thing. And so I stuffed all my dirty clothes in there and then filled my suitcase with all the stuff I was bringing home, steel rift and miniatures and all kinds of junk like that. And then I checked that bag, and then the bag that had my clothes in it, I just stuffed in the overhead thing. Anyway, so I had to wait for the bag to get through the carousel thing. I normally don't check a bag, but it finally did. And then I took it out to my car, which has been parked there for 5 days, and I gave the clicker for my keys, and nothing is happening. Nothing. I'm clicking. I'm like, what? I know that I had changed the battery recently in my clicker, but I'm like, it was literally like a month ago, if that, so it should be fine. Long story short, battery was completely dead. Just dead. Just nothing. Like, open the door, like nothing. I don't know. Very weird. Didn't leave any lights on. Didn't have anything plugged into the cigarette lighter that should have, I don't know what it was. It was very strange. So that sucked. So I went back into the airport and asked the security guy if they had one of those jump packs, those like, things and he's like, yeah, and he gave it to me, and it didn't do anything. It was terrible. It just didn't work. So I was like, oh, good Lord. So I called my wife, because it's like, at this point, it's like 10:30 at night. So she drives from where we live to there, which took about a half hour. And she brought our little jump pack. So like the one the guy gave me was big. It was a foot long. It's kind of heavy, and it had 2 jumper cable things on it. It had 3/4 of a charge, according to the little sensor or whatever the little thing on it. But it didn't do anything. Just didn't work. So my wife grabs the one that we have, which is tiny. It's like barely bigger than a phone. It's like, I don't know. Like, this is my phone, and it's shorter than my phone. It's maybe twice as thick as my phone, maybe a little bit more, but it's just like, it's a small little, it's like a USB power bank, like that you would, use to charge your laptop or what, I don't know, not even laptop, your phone, I don't know, whatever. It's just real small. And I got it from the auto parts store years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, before the pandemic. And we've used it, and it's always worked great. And we hadn't touched it since previous to the pandemic. So it had like half a charge on it. So I'm like, bring that along. We'll see. Worst comes to worst, you drive me home. I'll have to call a tow truck tomorrow, which would come out. It would have been on Labor Day, which would have been a whole problem. Anyway. So she comes out there, I pop open the hood, and I put this thing on there, and as soon as I touch it, immediately the horn goes off, the alarm is going off, the thing lights up, I get inside, I push the start button, started right up. The weirdest thing. I don't understand what it was, but man, that little tiny, that was the best $95 I think I ever spent in my life, because that thing is, we've charged it maybe twice, and I can't tell you how many times we've had to jump, either like my mom's old car with it, our cars, like when it's like negative 20 degrees Fahrenheit and stuff like that. Like, it just works really, really well. It's maybe a company called Shoemaker. I don't know. I can't recommend it enough. Honestly, it's a great little investment. And now I just keep it in the car right now because I'm nervous about the battery. I took it to like AutoZone, and they're like, well, it says here on our sensor thingy that the charge is kind of low, and you have to charge it up more before we can test it to see. So I might need a new battery, but whatever. It was weird. So, yeah. We took 2 15 to 20 hour trips so far this year. We're completely done with long trips and transfers. Oh yeah, no, that's the flight out there I like left at 6:30 in the morning. Like, that's when my flight was, which means I had to leave home at 5, and then I didn't get to DC till like 4:30 in the afternoon. I mean, admittedly, I'd gone forward one time zone, so it was more like 3:30 in the afternoon for me, but still, it was a good long day. It just needed your wife's magical touch. Very possibly. I understand that, Emily. Thanks for the live stream chat. Thanks to the excellent people in chat. Happy hobbying, everyone. Absolutely, John Ashley Smith. If it was a gravity battery bank, there's a button you need to push for it to turn on and charge. The little thing or the battery, or I don't know much about cars. I had that with my car before. Turned out the sensor in the boot was faulty, so the interior light was perma on. See, I think it was something to do with the fact that it sat there for 5 days, because otherwise it hasn't had that problem since. So it's very possibly that, but it could be also just bad battery. The battery's, like, the car's 5 years old, and it's the original battery, so it could be that too. starter motor not charging the battery, so when you run the car, it runs on the battery. That doesn't seem to be the current case. There's a light that would go on if like the alternator or whatever was like not doing its job, from what I understand. I looked at the instructions and whatnot. Might be some high parasitic electrical draws, like actual parasites. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, something like that. Schumacher has been in the recharging business for a long time. Nice. Ratman borrowed your battery for Warpstone hijinks. That's possible too. That happens in airport parking lots quite a bit. Sounds like a relay was off and the juice from your jumper was enough to open it back up. Yeah, it could be too. Again, like I said, don't know, but I was glad that little jumper thing worked, whereas the other one did not. But I'm keeping an eye on the battery, and I'm going to be. I probably have to replace it eventually. I don't know. The guy at AutoZone was like, it was $200, which makes the car go, so it's kind of important. My car radio was drawing power all the time, and I had to replace the whole thing last year because I got tired of pulling the fuse every time I left for more than a few minutes. Yeah, that is no fun. That doesn't sound good at all. If the alarm had gone off for some reason, it could keep going until the battery ran out. I guess that's possible. Now that you mention it, yeah, like somehow if somebody was trying to get in the car and the alarm went off and it just went and went and went until eventually killed it, I guess that's possible. I hadn't thought of that. You'd think that people would have, I don't know, put a note on it or something, or like secure, but maybe not. I don't know. Long-term security, hard to tell. 5 years is an old battery, and not cranking for 5 days can kill a battery that old. See, that's what the security guy was like. Yeah, he's like, if that's the original battery in your car and your car's 5 years old, it could be that. I'm like, I mean, it wasn't cold. If it was cold, I would expect it, but it was like, it was summer, so I don't know. Picked up my car once, drove it home, let it sit for an hour, and it wouldn't restart. Well, I'm keeping an eye on it. After you made that video announcing Space Station Zero, I ordered here in the UK and was quite impressed with how quickly they got it to me. I think it was like just 3 to 4 days. Nice. Well, yeah, like I said, they have, because it's print on demand, they have 2 facilities currently. I hope that they expand into other parts of the globe soon, but we'll see. But there's a facility in the U.S., which is in maybe Tennessee or maybe Pennsylvania, depends on who you talk to. I don't exactly know. I should probably look that up. And then there's one in the U.K. as well. So for people who are ordering it in the U.K., in Europe, places like that, it's getting printed there. And then the shipping can be quite quick. Whereas if you're getting it printed in the United States, it's been showing up in people's hands relatively quicker than like their thing when you say, oh, I'll take the cheapest shipping, and they're like, okay, it'll probably take 3 weeks. There's been showing up a lot quicker than that, so that's very cool. But yeah, alrighty. So I'm looking forward to going again to the Nova Open last year. Right now, I don't have any other conventions going on until, well, I have a convention coming up in end of October, so a month and a half from now. But it is not like a fly to a convention. It's actually here in the state. It's called Dragonfall, and it's in Lake Geneva, Wisconsin. You should check it out if you live somewhere in the area and you want to come try and come play and hang out. It's a miniatures convention predominantly. They're trying to spread out a little bit into some other stuff, but for the most part, it's 90%, 95% miniatures. It is for charity. Moderator Matt actually is like the lead of the kind of charity, like raffle kind of whole shooting match. And it's at the same place where they do GaryCon. Have you ever heard of GaryCon? It's like a big RPG convention. Same building, same main room, I think, too. I don't know. I think they spread out more into the hotel, but it's not huge. So last year it was 200, maybe 250 people. Hopefully it'll be a little bigger this year. In previous years, previous to the pandemic, I think in 2019 it was like 400 or 500 people. So they're trying to grow it back up to that point again. But yeah, it's a fun convention. It's a Saturday, Sunday. It's not like a 4-day thing. Yeah, and if you just do a search for Dragonfall Convention on Google, you'll find it. But yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to going to that. I'll be talking more about it as it gets closer. It's getting close. It's less than 2 months. So yeah, definitely looking forward to going to that. I think Sam's going to be there as well. I'm 98% sure he's like teaching some classes there. But yeah, looking forward to it. Really looking forward to it. Hopefully he and I can get together and play Well, hopefully we can get together and play some Warcry before then, obviously. But you know, I also want to. We played Warcry there last year. It was fun. So we'll see how that goes. There's also somebody brings in a whole bunch of old school coin operated video games, and then you can just play them for free. So that's kind of cool too if you're into that kind of thing. Anyway, so have you watched Rings of Power yet? Your thoughts? I have not. Nope. We're finishing up What We Do in the Shadows, so we haven't gotten to that yet. Cool. Anyway, we'll thanks for everybody for coming by. We'll talk to you again soon. Like I said, if you're interested, I'll be on Twitch tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Central Time. Poke. For 3 hours usually, and I'll be painting and stuff and talking to folks and all that kind of jazz. And then Friday I'll be 10 a.m. Central, and that's again 3 hours. So if you get the chance, hop on by, come on over and follow me on Twitch as well. And yeah, we'll see you folks soon. I hope that everybody has a good week, and yeah, looking forward to not traveling too much at all for a while and getting a bunch of things done that way. So that'll be very cool. Thanks again, everybody, for coming by, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks for watching.